Welcome to Ladies of Another View on Back. They're
Oh,
laughing
no.
already. I hope you guys are ready today because it is Friday. And thank God. Although it's been a great week. It has been.
I'm glad it's over, honestly. Not gonna lie.
Okay, well, let's just first of all, we have Kendi joining us. And of course, she's on fire because she's going on vacation.
Woo!
We have Andrea with us,
Hey.
and she just got back from Florida. We have Dr. Steve, who's also going to Florida next week, and Puerto Rico.
Yes.
And I have all of next week off. So if you see me missing, I'm not ghosting you. I will be back, but I'm going to Florida for a whole week.
Yes, woohoo! Lucky. We are lucky.
We are.
You all took my recommendations. I'm telling you, it's a great place to be right now.
Sweet.
Yes, can't wait to get there. But we also have Dr. Steve Nagel. You're getting to be kind of a fixture here, and we absolutely
Well, thank
love
you
it.
for having me.
And not only that, but if you notice, he does wear cowboy boots, so he's got that going for him too.
Yes.
Yes, actually, your dad is pretty big with the Independent Beef Association of North Dakota, and I know him through the cattle industry before I ever met you.
Oh, wow.
Aw.
Yeah, I know we talked about that. So
Yeah, so that's so cool.
Yeah, your dad is awesome. Shout out to Steve's dad.
Yeah,
You know
and
who you are.
Yes. And he watches Beck TV like
Awesome.
very regularly. So.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, he
Yeah.
did. He's called me a couple times, so I appreciate that. So anyway, let's just kind of jump into it. We're going to talk about our immune system. We're all healthy here. We're going to Florida. We're going to see some more sunshine, and sunshine gives us that vitamin D, and that's going to help our immune system anyway, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Even just sunshine. I think over the last year we've been taught a lot about things to fear and fear, confusion. There's all these different emotions, even anger, over everything that's been going on for so long now. And I think until we actually start to move away from this idea of fearing a virus and actually start to focus on the health of our immune system, it can be very fearful or very confusing for people to know what to do, right?
Sure.
And if there's one message that's been consistent, even for the last 10 years, even prior to COVID, with myself as a practitioner in our office and our clinic and what we stand for, is that we have an immune system that lives within us, right? And we have an ability to be resilient against bacteria, against viruses, against all these different things, right? So the idea of making our immune system strong again, I think can be very freeing for people, where we don't have to feel like we live in fear of this mysterious, what did Trump call it?
I don't remember.
China virus?
Or the China virus.
The China virus? Yeah.
The invisible evil or something to that effect, right? Yeah, and so that's very much what we look at doing is in our clinic, as well as, how I live my life, is what can we do to strengthen our body's internal ability to handle whatever comes our way, because it's not just about that, it's about cancer, right? Cancer itself is a deficiency in the immune system's or the immune response's ability to handle things that shouldn't be there.
So I've heard that every single one of us has cancer cells in our bodies. It's just
Every
a
second,
matter.
every day.
It's just
they're
a
being
matter
made.
of if they're going to replicate at a fast speed and then you have full-blown cancer, or if you keep it under wraps by living a healthy lifestyle. Is that kind of true?
Right. One of the best ways that I've ever heard it is that cancer doesn't make you sick. Right. Being sick for a long time ultimately can end up in cancer.
Oh.
And so it's a process that happens over the course of months to years to decades, to where our immune system becomes run down and loses the ability to actually handle what it is that it needs to handle.
So, and just touching on that idea of being sick, I have my grandmother who passed away from cancer. She appeared to be relatively healthy. However, she was overweight. And so when you say people are sick for a long time, it may not be necessarily that they have these like physical symptoms per se where they're not feeling super good, but there's something happening with them that has compromised their overall immune system.
Correct.
Would you agree?
And their overall health, right? We can walk around one day, be out playing golf, and the next day die from a heart attack. It didn't happen that day. It was a process of events over the course of years that got that person to that point. The problem with our mainstream medical approach is that we don't typically take action until our body's already in crisis. right? And so when we start to look at being proactive, one of the things we like to say is we test, we don't guess, right? We test the body, and we use testing procedures that are, let's just say, a lot more up to date than what a lot of mainstream testing actually entails, right? And we're going to get into some of that during our episode today. I brought a few of the examples of a little bit about what it is that we go through and what we look at, right? But when I go back to our roots, I have a background in nursing, right? And I worked ICU for about 1.5 years, and during that time, I realized that medicine was amazing at saving lives in a time of crisis, right? And I think about that like a firefighter, right? Where if you have a fire in your house, the best people to have come help you are firefighters, right? Whereas if we look at what 180 Health Solutions or any of the Wellness Way clinics around the country do as practitioners is we look at the body more so like a carpenter would look at the body, right? Meaning, what do we need to repair, right? How can we build a strong house, right? That doesn't break down, or that doesn't break, that's not likely to have a fire in it, right? And so
that's going to be my luck. I'm going to blow up with spontaneous combustion one day.
You better not.
That's how I'm leaving this earth.
No.
Go out with a bang.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
exactly.
I want to go out with a bang, but not that bang. No.
But no, I understand that. That makes perfect sense, that you have to repair what God has given us. He's given us, we're all born perfectly, for the most part. I mean, there are genetic issues. I understand that. But for the most part, we are born with this perfect body, and it's what we put into it and how we treat it and how we keep it. And just like an old roof, you have to fix that old roof sometimes.
Yeah.
You just have to keep repairing it.
Yeah, and so when you have a leaky roof, right, would it make sense to get out the vacuum cleaner and clean up the water on the kitchen floor every day, or would it make sense to actually fix the roof?
Exactly.
And so very oftentimes when our system is so short-sighted that we wait until we just clean up the water, right, on the kitchen floor, but we never actually even think about what's actually triggering that, what's actually causing all these underlying problems. And so that's where, when we look at how the immune system's working, we need to actually start taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture of how we've become so sick as a society.
Wow, and I know there's a lot that goes into it. I know I had just been to my chiropractor today, and he had a brochure about not to use the microwave so much, not to microwave your foods. If you're going to thaw out your hamburger, take it out a few hours earlier. There's so many conveniences today, whether it's fast food, but if you just eat right, you're actually helping your body.
Yeah, that's a huge component of why our body breaks down, is if we put the wrong stuff in it, I mean, what are we going to expect out of it?
Right, right. You are what you eat, just like putting gas in your vehicle, or when you get an oil change, do you want the premium oil or do you want the cheap oil? Same thing goes into our body. We need to take care of our body in that sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, we have just a ton more information that we're going to go over, and I know you have kind of like a little slide presentation that we're going to go through.
Yeah, I got a few things we want to talk about. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so after this, or coming up next, we're going to go ahead and look at that slideshow, because you have so much information. You bring it with every time, but we're going to let our viewers see it at this point too.
Piece it out.
We'll be back after this on Ladies of Another View on Back.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota. Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
Hop in the rig and go down the road with me. We'll cover local and national stories that impact you. What happens with national debt? Does anybody even care anymore? Do you think Governor Burgum truly understands the legislative process?
You know, I think he's got a better understanding now than he did 2 years ago.
Why in the world are we having a conversation about being anti-vaccination? Down the road with Joel Heitkamp weekdays at 5:30 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Pub 21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub 21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck, where you get real news from real people. And we also get real doctors here, so you get the truth. So it's not like, well, I heard it on Facebook or I saw it on social media. You heard it here from a doctor right to you.
Right on.
Right on, absolutely. So we're visiting with Dr. Steve Nagel, and he's with 180 Health Solutions over in Mandan, the other side of the river. And you always bring such good information to us.
Yeah.
So why don't we just kind of pick up where we left off?
Yeah, so one of the things we were talking about was the quality of our immune response, right, or our immune resilience. And what I think is really interesting is we don't hear about this, right? We don't hear it from the North Dakota Department of Health. We don't hear it from on national TV or anything. We don't ever talk about the importance of the immune response. And I think, I always go back to, I think of a question. Like, I think of one of my mentors, the statement that the quality of your life will be determined by the quality of the questions you ask. And I think if we start asking better questions about why our immune systems are failing us as an entire society, I think we can come up with better answers, right? And it's very empowering. And that's when we talk about Stanford University. If you want to bring up the first slide that I have there, they bring some really, and they actually asked a really great question, right? They ask, well, why do some people not even know they have COVID and other people die from it? Right? There has to be a difference in their physiology. And so when we look at this, and it goes back to the quality of their immune response and how well their immune response is functioning, and what most people know, we're taught to think our immune response is nothing but the antibody response, right? Meaning, and that's where the whole idea of a vaccine to be our savior comes in, is let's give somebody a vaccine and it's gonna fix everything for them, right? Not necessarily the case, because we have a much broader immune system itself. And what the research is showing is that it's actually an entirely different component of the immune system that's the most important when we're dealing with the entire family of coronaviruses. And that immune response is called the innate immune response, right? We have the innate immune response, which is kind of that immediate response to when we're exposed to something, and then we have also what's called the adaptive immune response. The adaptive immune response is where your body learns and we develop antibodies and all that sort of thing steps in. We need them both, and we need to have balance in them both. And what this research is showing is that people that have a deficiency in their innate immune response are the ones that are becoming severely ill.
Wow.
And so if we look at that and we start to ask questions about why is that immune response not adequate enough, right? And so if we go to the next slide, it talks about that, this ancient innate immune system and how that responds to coronavirus, right? We have it, it's within all of us. The only question is, why is some people's working and others people's aren't working like it should? And so if you go to the next slide for me here. Thank you. So we look at this, and our immune response has these different layers. And this is one of the, I think the most important thing maybe that we take home is that first response that we have is our barriers, right? Things like our skin, right? Our digestive tract, things that keep things from getting in that shouldn't be in, right? Kind of like that, it's literally that first line of defense. And if those barriers are worn down, we're more likely to become ill. And so we have physical barriers, right? What is the integrity of our digestive tract? We focus a lot on immune health and a lot on the health of our digestive system. So much of that goes back into, just like we talked about before, the foods we put into our body, right? And even medications can affect how our digestive tract works very profoundly. And so when we think about this and we look at that, there's as you see up on the screen there, if you look at the top right is the only component that we really even come in that even talks about the antibody response. But there's this entire other part of our immune response that we cannot ignore. And so when we go a little bit deeper, we talk about the health of our skin, the health of our GI tract, even the health of our lungs, all these things play a really important role. And when go ahead and go to the next slide for me here. It's a little bit full of content, but what's really interesting is when we look at this, right? This is not anything new in the news today. When we talk about immunity, specifically when we talk about coronavirus, right? All we hear in the news is, go get your vaccine, and we need this antibody response.
Or if you're sick, go home, and if you get really bad, go to the ER.
Right, nothing practical. But if we look at the antibody response is actually rather short term when it comes to these coronaviruses, and it's actually what we call, you may have heard the T cell response, yes. Right? Mm-hmm. Being more important. And so looking at that and starting to ask ourselves, well, why are we chasing down this road so hard when we should actually be focusing on the rest of the immune response? And then focusing on things that we can do to optimize and help that immune response itself. What's interesting about the slide that I just had up, there was there's some interesting, it's called cross-reactivity.
Let's pop that last one up again and we can read it.
Where they talk about prior exposure to other coronaviruses being really important in how your body's resilient against the actual SARS-CoV-2. So that brings out a question of, if we're hiding from everybody, right? Social distancing, not getting exposed to actual other coronaviruses in circulation, right? If we're masking up, overusing sanitizer, that sort of thing, are we keeping our immune system from the stimulation that it needs in order to be competent? Our immune system needs to be challenged, and it needs to have to deal with these things. Otherwise, your body actually loses that ability. It's kind of like if we lived in a bubble for 5 years and we left it, we would very much likely have problems with pretty much anything that comes into our environment, because the immune system needs that stimulation.
Are they saying that's why these new strains that they're finding are a little bit harder to get rid of? I mean, it makes sense. They've told us years not to overdo antibiotics.
Right.
And so by using the hand sanitizers, that's kind of it's killing the good germs as
right.
well as the bad germs.
Well, and I mean, there's so many things that come into play to that, right? Where, there's always going to be new variants, and that's the thing. I mean, there's millions of different viruses around us all day, every day. In fact, many of them are actually very important in how our immune systems work and how our body works. They're called bacteriophages, and we need them in our environment. And to try to pretend that the amount of stress, right? When we're going to talk a little bit about the role of, the first thing you can do to help your immune system is stop damaging it, right? Stop injuring it. And so there's a lot of different things. I think that's the next slide that I have, actually. a lot of different things that tends to weaken the immune response. And so when we look at that, right, things like mental stress, right, your sugar or processed foods, right, loneliness, right? So these things play a huge role in how our immune system breaks down. Standard American diet, lack of movement, right, lack of proper sleep, smoking, medications, right, proton pump inhibitors are, why aren't we talking about that? They're a huge reason why people get sick. Low vitamin D levels, right? All these things play a role in what weakens that immune response.
Sure. Then you got the food allergies, your intestines, poor diet, everything. So we're going to come back and visit more about that because there's so much more to learn about the immune system, and you are so good at presenting it. That's for laymen like us. It makes it so understandable. So we'll be back with more Dr. Steve with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Indoor football is back in Bismarck. Bucks football season is right around the corner. Grab a friend or family member for a night of action-packed, hard-hitting entertainment. The Bucks open at the Bismarck Event Center May 8th as they take on the Massachusetts Pirates. Catch the sweetest seats in the house right on the sidelines with VIP service at a Bucks turf table. Available now for single game purchases. Secure your tickets today by calling 701-595-0771. Bucks football, half the field and double the fun.
At Beck Communications, we've been planning for your future. Over the past decade, we've placed nearly 200,000 miles of dedicated fiber optics in the ground. Enough fiber optic strands to circle the world 8 times. Taking no shortcuts, we connected every home and business in our service area with dedicated fiber optics. It's your personal, unrestricted, unthrottled connection to the world. Best of all, this dedicated fiber means you do not share your connection. We call this intimate dedicated connection Beck Fiber.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Ever been in a cave before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the car! How will we? The car! Your offer has been accepted. Ever bought a house before?
It's our first time.
All right.
Where are you going?
I'll see you at the closing. But how will we? The closing!
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We are visiting with Dr. Steve Nagel from 180 Health Solutions. And he's going to tell us a story about his Cayman boots, but that's for another time.
Yeah.
We're going to dive.
Thank you.
There's all kinds of things we learn on this show. But we're going to dive right back into the immune system and pick up where we left off.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit about things that can pull down or bog down the immune system, make it not work as efficiently as it should.
Let's pop up that last slide that we had up.
Yeah. So one of the things we talk a lot about is the devil's in the details, right? Where, yes, a lot of times we're doing all these things, but we still can't figure out what's wrong with our health. And so looking at things like, I know we talk a lot about in our office, a lot about doing food allergy testing. And for me, that was profound. your health, right? The health of your GI system, your digestive tract, it plays a huge role, that first line defense, that barrier. Heavy metal exposure, that can play a huge role in how our body produces white blood cells, right? Your bone marrow is actually square one in any sort of blood cell production. Lead, as an example, has an affinity for bone tissue, and it will inhibit your body's ability to produce red blood cells, white blood cells, and can create a lot of immune deficiencies.
And so a lot of people have fillings that have metal in them
Yes,
from
like
the
mercury.
70s and 80s. Tell us about that.
They should be removed, and they should be removed appropriately. There's actually an entire process to make sure that you're not inhaling it into your brain tissue and things like that. And so I know there's a biologic dentist here in town that actually she has special training to make sure she's doing that correctly. And we refer a lot of patients over that way if we suspect heavy metal exposure. But it's interesting to be to actually have testing done for heavy metal exposure because and it has to be done right. It has to be done in the right process. Otherwise, things won't show up like they're supposed to show up. But that's another thing that's important to look into when it comes to not only overall health, but when it comes to brain function, Alzheimer's, that sort of thing too. Even children, right, that have been exposed to heavy metals at some point, it can create be a trigger for a lot of neurological problems. Type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, that's another huge component. 94% of people that have died from coronavirus have a comorbidity, and the largest ones themselves are type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. And so the next slide that I brought here, I thought it'd be really interesting to show where, starting out, we see a lot of people that are diabetic, and sometimes people don't even know it. Without getting into all the details of the labs, we very often are able to help people to take control of their own health to reverse the different underlying triggers of insulin resistance and therefore diabetes, and actually reverse the underlying process. This is an example of a gentleman that had come in May of 2019 on 8 prescription medications, everything from 3 diabetes medications to statins to which are cholesterol medications, to migraine headaches, medication for joint pain, and within roughly 5 to 6 months, he was able to get off everything, plus his actual physiological lab markers were markedly better, massively better. And so that's something that when we talk about doing complete testing, right, there's a lot more advanced ways to test the human body than what most people have been taught to believe. And if we test the body appropriately, we can apply lifestyle change. We can apply nutrients, herbs, lifestyle changes, food, stress management, chiropractic care to actually look at restoring the body to normal. That person in May of 2019 should have been scared of coronavirus. That person a year later has very little to fear. And so this is where we take the fear away when they start to understand their body and understand what their immune system actually looks like and how it works. If you go to the next slide, I know for me a big thing, like I've been on this health and wellness journey for a really long time. This is my food allergy testing, right? Mm-hmm. And so I put it up there because I've been thinking I was doing everything right. And what I realized was that one of the big things that I was actually allergic to and eating almost 5 days a week was eggs. Even though it's a really healthy food, right, for me it was unhealthy. And that's where getting specific with people, I was dealing with every afternoon I'd have massive fatigue, right? Where if it was a busy day, I'd run home, eat some eggs real quick, and by the time I got back to the office, I'd feel like I needed a gallon of coffee just to get through the day. As soon as I cut out the food that I was allergic to, one of the major foods that I was allergic to that I was eating every day, it was a night and day difference. And I maybe had 2 naps in the last 3 years, right?
Wow.
And
so when you do those allergy tests, is it the scratch test on your back?
No, it's a blood test. So what we do is a blood test, and what they do is they take blood and then they expose that blood, the immune system in your blood, they expose it to the proteins from these different foods, and they measure the immune response. And so anything that creates an immune response creates a trigger and creates a load on that immune system. So if it's busy dealing with that, it's not going to be as competent and as efficient in dealing with everything else it has to deal with.
So one of the things I wanted to say is actually started at 180 as a a patient there, because I had tried traditional medicine for an illness that I had had for years and could not get help for. And so I had a food allergy test done, and I had changed my diet significantly. I mean, I had cut out all processed food completely, was eating very healthy, but one of the things that I was eating every single day was oatmeal, and it showed up as one of my allergies. And once I cut that out and several other things, I mean, I got better. So it works.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
so that's a little bit of insight into where we take the idea of health and wellness to the next level, right? There's actually an entire science of actually how to apply the idea that our body can heal itself. And that's something that I feel so fortunate because I get to do that every day, right? And so the world I live in is a different world than this world of fear and unknown, and this idea that the only way we can save ourselves is by hiding from the world indefinitely. Like, to me, it's just, it doesn't even register, and yet I guess I understand where the fear can come from if there's no other options.
But we clearly have options, and it's all about taking care of ourselves.
Yeah, and figuring out those answers and figuring out like how our body works, right? Learn about it, learn about and the different actions that we can take to help to strengthen that resilience.
What suggestions would you have for people that they could do right now within, today? What can people do to strengthen their immune system?
Well, number one, get rid of stress in your life, right? If there's things that are massively stressing you out, right? Starting to deal with that, like figuring out a way that you can handle that. Getting rid of processed sugars, processed flours, breads, that sort of thing, because that has a profound effect on your immune system. It affects vitamin C utilization, it affects vitamin D levels, it affects, you name it, the list goes on the effects of abnormal blood sugar.
So no, I've heard though, because you did mention breads, all right, but if you are going to eat a bread, I was told sourdough bread is the best bread to eat. Is there any truth to that?
Well, it depends, right? And that's where, like, if a person still already has blood sugar issues, it doesn't matter the carbohydrates that you're getting. Like, you need, obviously there's healthy carbs and there's unhealthy carbs, but you need to be like, and that's where the devil's in the details for different people, right? For someone like myself that doesn't have the blood sugar problems, having more of these processed carbohydrates in the diet can be okay, but for many people it's a really bad thing.
Okay. Wow. So is there a good bread, period? I think
this is
that means
something
no.
I don't know if you remember this discussion, because Dr. Steve and I started off as friends. And
They still are.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Ouch.
Depends on the day.
Yeah.
Just kidding. No, we are friends. But I really threw a fit over the whole gluten thing.
You did.
When I first started there, I was like, no, like, I can eat bread. And he's like, it's poison. And once I changed, it was a game changer for me. So hands down, I can tell you it works when you remove it.
The first thing we do when somebody comes into our office is we have them cut out grains and dairy. Because we know that for almost everybody, they are triggers of inflammation. And that ends up, if you have too much inflammation, it's going to create problems with your immune system.
Wow, that scares me, because I was told to cut back on I love milk. I love milk, always loved milk. I love, like lots of people have beer and pizza, I have milk and pizza. I love milk that much. But we're going to learn a whole lot more after this, because you have a whole lot more to tell us on Ladies of Another View.
How much time do we have?
You got a lot more.
Today's households have more digital devices than ever before. More links to family, business, education, and entertainment. Beck Communications spent over 10 years building North Dakota's fastest fiber optic internet service. Beck Lightband Internet, outpacing speeds in large cities nationwide. Lightband Internet handles all your digital needs without throttling your connection to the world. Beck Communications, valuable digital connections in rural North Dakota.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We are still visiting with Dr. Steve Nagel because...
Can't get rid of me.
No, we want to keep you. We should make you part of our set like once a week. It is...
Ladies of the View and me.
And me.
It's fascinating.
Steve. Anyway, so right before the break, you crushed me by saying that dairy is
I'm
bad.
sorry.
I love dairy. I thought cheese is good for you, milk is good for you, the calcium. Tell me why I can't
So
have
first
dairy.
off, don't kill the messenger, okay?
All right, we were already scolded for throwing things on set, so we know how to control ourselves.
Yeah. So yeah, no throwing stuff. So the idea when we look at your immune system's job is to respond to foreign proteins, okay? And so primarily one of the reasons that particularly dairy and gluten-containing grains are so detrimental is because of the proteins in them. And because they're very inflammatory for the human body.
But we grow up, you nurse a baby. I mean, let's go back thousands of years. You nurse a baby for the first year or 6, whatever.
So breast milk is not the same as cow's milk, right? Can you think of another species that's ever drinking another species' milk?
Well, but we are the higher species. I got news for you. So we know how to utilize
But look at
other
us
species.
as all animals.
So let's take that as an example. There's European cattle that have different proteins than American domesticated cattle. And so there's, if we look at what we've done, I have much less of a problem with a raw form of dairy than I do the pasteurized, homogenized stuff
I
in
agree
the
with
grocery
that.
store.
I agree with that.
Because what happens is we would normally in raw dairy have have the enzymes intact to help your body to break down the casein in the dairy itself. However, once we go through the pasteurization process, those enzymes are all denatured and they no longer function. And so what happens is it creates a lot of inflammation for people, number one. And the fact of the matter is clinically, it makes amazing changes when people get off of it. And it's the same thing with the gluten-containing grains and how they create another chemical in the human body called gliadin, which is very much inflammatory. They also bind nutrients, right? Meaning it takes your body extra energy and nutrients in order to handle the different chemicals in grains and dairy. And so that's where when we see it, like as you go to the grocery store, that form of dairy, it's no good for anybody. even Harvard's actually published research, like some actually good stuff that goes into the idea that milk as it is in our form that we consume it today is not fit for human consumption.
Wow, that's just sad. You know, a few years ago, I know there were some bills up on the Hill regarding raw milk and the benefits of raw milk, and I can't remember if that passed or failed. I think it failed.
Yeah, it failed.
You have to buy a share, right?
Yes.
You have
That's
to
the
buy
way
a
it's
share
So
of
you
the
buy a
cow.
portion of a
But,
cow,
like,
and then
I grew up on raw milk.
So did I.
We milked every night, and the cow would, I mean, we didn't have the big old machine thing. Dad did this by hand. And the cow would, I mean, swish her tail in it. And so in order for us to have milk, we would strain it through a cheesecloth, and that's what we drank. And so was it 100% safe? I don't know. We never got sick. We were never sick. We were never sick as kids. I never went to the doctor ever.
But we've changed it. We've changed it very significantly from that form of dairy to what we consume now.
So then why
And
would
then
people be against raw milk? That's the part I don't understand.
Because we started feeding cattle grain. And when we started feeding cattle grain to have them produce more milk, what happened is that destroyed their immune systems. So now if you look at, if there's actually some really interesting stuff that when they looked at grass-fed cattle and their milk, and then the grain-fed cattle and milk, and they looked at the bacterial content was 20,000 times higher in the cows that were fed primarily grains versus those that were raised on grass. And so when we're eating milk that already has a ton of bacteria in it, right, it makes it very likely to go bad.
So is that why they pasteurize it then, is to get that bacteria out?
Correct.
Okay, so I have a question. My husband sent me with a question for you today.
Uh-oh, dum,
I
dum,
know.
dum.
Yeah.
So he said feeding omega-3s to cattle. What's that all about? People are starting to feed their cattle some omegas. Does that help the milk and the meat?
I do not have an answer for that. I'm not
He
a cow
doesn't have
expert.
an answer, Kenny.
So I'm not an expert in cattle. However, what we do know is that when we look at the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio in beef, it's really important, right? That for the health content. That's another thing that we measure in our office is your own body's omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, which is really important. Everything from brain health to how the insulation around your nerves are actually functioning. That omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is really important. How your risk of cardiovascular disease is and having a heart incident is massively elevated if those ratios aren't in line. And so that's one of those things where meat gets a bad rap, right? Red meat gets a bad rap, and like I wish that would just go away, right? There's so many really great benefits to good quality raised beef that I think a lot of people are turned away from it because we're told that it's not good for you. But if we're eating it in the form that it was originally designed to be consumed in, it can be very helpful for you.
Sure. You know, and touching on that, you know, you brought up the fact that when we're born, you know, we come with this healthy body. And now we're talking about milk and beef and how it's changed. You know, if we would go back to how God had intended things to be, and we consumed food the way that God intended them to be consumed, we would be more healthy. We would not have these problems. But as men and women, we've changed things, and it's created a lot of our problems.
Of our food.
Well, and they can grow a bigger tomato, but it doesn't mean it has more nutrients in it because there's no nutrients left in the soil.
And that's the thing. We tend to be consumed with creating calories, right? That's how foods are judged now, or how crops are judged by how many calories can we produce. If we look around our country, we're not calorie deficient as a society, we're nutrient deficient, okay? Meaning the foods that we eat are very much void of the proper nutrients, but instead are very much nutrient depleted, but they have plenty of calories. Sure. But that's not what creates health.
Okay, we got another slide you wanted to get to that.
Yeah, so actually a couple of them. One of the things that we always suggest, like, hey, what else can I do, is that proper testing, right? This is kind of a common one. People have probably seen this a lot when we talk about basically a white blood cell count. But if you go to the next slide, I think this is something that's really unique and fascinating. If you want to go ahead and skip to the next one there. When we talk about an immune system test, we hear a lot about your T cell response, right? And we have part of the major components of your T cells are your CD4 and your CD8 counts. And if we can actually look at those and see, it actually helps us to determine whether or not you should be scared or not, right? If your immune system is, if you're prone to whatever happens to be out there, right? Where we can measure that, your natural killer cell response, your B cell response, we can actually get a look at that and then as a baseline, help to watch that heal as we take away the different triggers, right? And so that's one of the things that I think is really fascinating. Obviously, this is not enough of a segment for me to get into all those details, but we are having a class, I think it's May 13th. May 13th is our next webinar where we get into, we call it Make Immune System Strong Again, right? And talking about how the immune system functions, we dive deep into that.
Anyone can hop onto that?
Yeah, absolutely. May 13th, 6:15 p.m. If you find us on our Facebook page, you can definitely get registered for that class. I know we have that up as of today.
Tell me your Facebook page. What is the name?
180
exactly?
Health Solutions.
180 Health Solutions on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, we're still alive there.
Yeah.
Before they kick you off.
Yeah.
So we get another format. You might be a little too conservative for Facebook. We are. We get booted off half the time. So, all right, you mentioned we are running out of time because you have so much more information you'd love to go over in just a few seconds. Tell me other things that we need to think about.
For your immune system?
Yes.
Proper sleep, right? Making sure you're getting enough sleep, making sure you're getting sun, make sure you do stress. Even the idea, there's even research that shows that having a strong faith is important for how your immune system works.
Perfect.
And so just living how we're intended to live.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, Dr. Steve, we appreciate you stopping by and visiting with us yet again, because every time you come, you bring us a lot of information. We'd sure appreciate that. And
hopefully it was entertaining enough.
Oh, absolutely. And you're welcome back anytime. So coming up next, we're going to go to our lighter side on Ladies of Another View on Beck.
Respect, innovation, trust, and excellence. These core values can be seen in every building built by Straightway Construction. In the community for over 15 years, Straightway Construction has become the premier construction company for commercial projects. From dirt to design and framing to finish, Straightway Construction is your #1 choice. You won't have to look far to find a project that has that Straightway touch. Call them today or go online to straightwayconstruction.com and let them make your vision a reality.
Deciding how to promote your business can be hard. Visit the professionals at Dakota Promotions and Printing and let them help you through your struggle. Dakota Promotions provides promotional items and apparel from corporate gifts to team shirts and everything in between. With quick turnaround times and friendly service, they are your best choice. And best yet, you're shopping local. Visit them online at dakotapromo.com or stop in their showroom at 320 West Main in Mandan. Dakota Promotions, delivering promotions just for you.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Indoor football is back in Bismarck. Bucks football season is right around the corner. Grab a friend or family member for a night of action-packed, hard-hitting entertainment. The Bucks open at the Bismarck Event Center May 8th as they take on the Massachusetts Pirates. Catch the sweetest seats in the house right on the sidelines with VIP service at a Bucks turf table. Available now for single game purchases. Secure your tickets today by calling 701-595-0771. Bucks football, half the field and double the fun.
I'm Rick Becker from No Apologies. Welcome to your after-hours oasis of sanity.
How can these people not see that they're just clowns?
We help simplify and educate you on things going on in the legislature and around the country.
Asking the hard-hitting questions.
But also having Lee Stack and Sid and Marty Croft stuff, and we've talked about that sometimes. It's bad.
Watch us weeknights at 9 Central on Beck News and online at beck.news.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. You know, it's always good to have Steve here.
Yes, I agree.
He is. He's so bubbly and nice and friendly and so informative. I mean, he's got good information and just lays it out in a layman's terms.
Yes, he does not speak above us. He gives it to us in a way that we can understand. Love it.
Absolutely.
And he knows so much.
He does. He does. And it just so happens that she works for him, and we didn't know that when he was a guest the very first time. So anyway, but this brings us to our lighter side. We try to leave you with something positive, and this is a sweet story. Take a look.
Cash Owens, at the age of 10, has been front and center in the Brewers sales room, going on a year.
Oh, he's awesome.
The result of a lesson learned during a drive to Montana with his dad and his friend, an auctioneer.
And so for 795 miles home, every fence post and rock and pickup and cow and everything else that they saw got sold.
Sold $350.
I was so ready to get out of that pickup.
And when Cash's dad and mom bought the stockyards last year, Cash got his stage.
When he gets up there, he just gets in his element.
Cookie.
Little brother Chase has also found his place.
Cookie trunk.
Stockyard hospitality.
Thank you. Yep.
Big sister Cheyenne drives the cattle. And like her brothers Cole and Cody, knows Cash brings to the family a special talent.
He likes to talk a lot more than us.
He was just born like that.
Worth noting then that the kid who barely takes a breath once nearly took his last.
The night that he was born, we rushed him over to Rochester.
Cash came into the world with his intestines in a mess.
He just quit breathing.
A Mayo Clinic team resuscitated. 12 times they brought him back. The last time Cash needed prompting to grab a hold of life.
Mm-hmm. I just know as a mom that there's something there.
37.
No fear in front of all those people. Brand new language. 10 years old.
40. Probably buy more hay than what I need just to watch him sell.
I just think he enjoys life more. I think he appreciates it because he was so close to not having one.
Faith or fate?
362 is the back take.
Maybe a bit of both to credit. For an auctioneering prodigy, good as Cash.
Aw. Isn't that just sweet and adorable?
Oh,
now, I know that that was a few years back, but it just motivates you that these kids, you know.
The whole family. Oh my gosh. Like, I can't do that kind of talking. That's so impressive.
I looked, he is still doing it. Yep.
He
so
is.
that's part of their family business. So
great. And they're over in Minnesota, Blue Earth, Minnesota.
Yep.
But it's like, you know, go ahead and encourage your kids to, you know, you don't know what they pick up. They're like little sponges. They
are.
just absolutely pick up anything along the way. And it just so happened that he found his passion on a trip from Montana.
right.
And
I know a certain 10-year-old who talks almost enough. She could probably do it.
I love the dad's comment about how they were so ready to get out of the car. I'm like, oh gosh. I mean, I felt that way as a parent. My kids did not talk that much, you know, and I can't even imagine it like constantly going.
Yes,
I can imagine it.
You could just feel the energy that he had, though, and it's like he wasn't like just faking it to make
he's
it.
doing
he was
it.
like
He knew what he was doing it.
He was doing it because he loved it and enjoyed it, not that he had to do something like that.
Yeah, not at all.
So
That's
it'd
a
be kind of
passion.
fun to, you know, when you have someone like that, it's great at fundraisers as well because they kind of bring the crowd in and they bid. You know, the one guy said, "Well, I bought more hay. I probably didn't need it all. I just bought it because it's so fun." So
yeah, you have to give money to kids. I mean, you cannot say no. Those little Girl Scouts that are standing outside, they have their little boxes. You're like, I should not eat these, and I won't, but I'm going to give you however many dollars it costs to get a box because you're so cute.
There you go.
I'm pretty good at resisting those.
Oh gosh, I'm not.
Yeah, there's a few things that I'll resist, but anyway, but no, it was just adorable. And we come from a ranching family.
I was raised on a dairy.
And she
I was raised
came
on
from
a cattle ranch. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun because even Steve here was raised on a ranch
Yes.
too, so it was just kind of an appropriate ending to a fantastic week.
Good show.
A good show. It is. But so we have a couple minutes left. What would you like to leave us with, Kendi? What's on your mind?
Oh gosh, you know what? Let's see what's on my mind. Boys. Just kidding. I'm really looking forward to next week and just getting away for a few days, and then the next week I'm going to Mexico, which I'm even more excited about. So yeah, I've got some exciting things coming my way.
What part of Mexico?
Cancun.
Cancun.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome.
Hoping to come back with a little bit of a tan. I'm pasty white right now.
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm super excited because I saw the Lowe's greenhouse going up in the Dan's parking lot. So that means flowers are coming.
Yes,
spring.
That's
very excited.
Great. I know I usually hop from different greenhouse to different greenhouse trying to pick up, the best ones, and then half of them I don't always get in the ground.
Yeah.
And so then there's always some left over, so I buy them when they're on sale as well.
Awesome. What about you?
What about me? Oh, well, I'm going to Florida next week on a girls' trip.
Oh.
Looking forward to it. We don't get away much, and we farm and ranch, and so it's sad that Kenny can't go, but we're going to try to have fun without him.
I hope you survive.
I hope I survive, too. So anyway, we just hope, if you guys have a few minutes, and if you don't mind dropping to your knees and praying a little bit, we could really use some rain right here in North Dakota. I know they got some on the eastern side of the state, but we are incredibly dry here. So if you have a few minutes, just say a few prayers. But next week, we'll be back with all kinds of things to share with you on Ladies of Another View on Back